I found out I was a viral joke at my own anniversary party. 5 years with Chloe. 5 years of thinking I knew the person standing next to me when we raised our glasses that night. There were maybe 15 people in the room. Friends, a couple of her co-workers, someone's plus one I didn't recognize. Music low, lights warm, that easy kind of atmosphere where conversations overlap and no one's really paying attention to anything in particular. Until Chloe tapped her glass. Okay, she said, smiling like she'd been waiting for this exact moment. I have something I want to show you guys. I remember the way she looked at me then, not nervous, not unsure, excited. I thought it was going to be something sentimental. A video, maybe. Pictures from the last 5 years. The kind of thing people do when they want to remind you why you chose each other. Instead, the room went quiet for a different reason. At first, it was just a few reactions. A chuckle here, someone shifting in their seat. Then a couple of glances, quick, awkward, not quite meeting my eyes. Chloe didn't seem to notice. Or maybe she did, and that was the point. She kept going, talking, smiling, reading something out loud like it was part of the entertainment. That's when I realized something was off. Not wrong in a small way, not awkward or poorly timed, something deeper, something deliberate, and whatever it was, it had already been seen by a lot more people than the ones standing in that room. If you'd asked me a year ago what Chloe did for a living, I would have shrugged and said something vague like, "She's building something online." It sounded supportive without forcing me to explain what I didn't fully understand. When we met, she wasn't like that. No ring light, no curated angles, no second takes. She wore oversized hoodies, laughed too loud at things that weren't that funny, and never once checked how she looked before someone took a picture. Back then, she didn't need to be seen. She just was. Somewhere along the way, that changed. It started small. A few posts here and there, then better lighting, then a camera that cost more than my first car. She learned how to position herself in front of a window so the light hit just right. Learned which side of her face the internet liked more. Learned how to hold a smile half a second longer than necessary so it didn't look forced. And people noticed. Followers turned into numbers she checked before brushing her teeth. Comments turned into something she read like a morning briefing. Validation stopped being occasional and became expected. I didn't think much of it at first. Everyone has their thing. Mine used to be the gym. Before long hours and longer weeks turned that into something I kept meaning to get back to. Hers just happened to come with filters and hashtags. She'd ask me to take pictures sometimes. "Not like that," she'd say, reaching over to tilt my phone a few degrees. "You're cutting off the light." Or, "Wait." Again. I blinked. At some point, I stopped offering. It wasn't a fight, not even close. More like a quiet shift neither of us acknowledged. She got better at doing it without me. Tripods, timers, setups I didn't understand. I became background, which was fine, honestly. I had work, long days, early mornings, the kind of routine that leaves you too tired to care about anything beyond dinner and a few hours of silence. I told myself it balanced out. She built her thing, I handled mine. Looking back, there were moments I should have paid more attention to. The way she'd sometimes angle her phone slightly away from me. The way she'd pause a video if I walked into frame. The way she'd laugh at something on her screen and not quite explain what was funny. Nothing obvious. Nothing you could point to and say, "That's the problem." Just enough to suggest that whatever world she was building online didn't really have a place for me in it. So when Chloe stood there that night, glass in hand, smiling like she was about to give us something meaningful, I didn't question it. If anything, I felt a brief, almost embarrassing flicker of warmth. Like maybe this was one of those moments people remember. A highlight reel. 5 years distilled into something worth watching. The screen behind her lit up. At first, I didn't register what I was looking at. It was quick. Cuts, transitions, music playing low through the speakers. Faces in the room turned toward the TV, then back to Chloe. Then, gradually, somewhere in my direction. I remember leaning forward slightly, elbows on my knees, trying to make sense of it. Then I saw myself. Not the version I recognize, not the one I'd choose to show anyone. A still frame, bad angle. My head tilted back, eyes closed, mouth just open enough to look ridiculous. It lingered half a second too long before cutting away. A couple of people chuckled. It didn't land right away. I assumed, honestly, that it was part of a joke I wasn't in on yet. Something self-deprecating maybe. Set up before a nicer moment. Then the next clip played, and the next. Different days, different angles, same pattern. Me caught mid-motion, mid-expression, always at the exact second that made me look off. Like someone had gone through hours of footage just to find the worst possible frames. There's a specific kind of silence that forms when people don't know if they're allowed to react. You can feel it in a room, the hesitation, the quick glances, the almost laughs that get swallowed halfway through. Chloe didn't hesitate. She turned slightly toward the screen, one hand lifted like she was presenting something she was proud of. "Okay, wait for this part," she said, already smiling. The video shifted. Now it was her. Same room, same general moments, but somehow everything about it felt different, clean, intentional. Like reality had been adjusted a few degrees in her favor. The lighting was softer, the angles were kinder. Even the timing, she always seemed to be aware of the camera, even when it pretended she wasn't. Someone behind me said quietly, "Wow." It wasn't about me. I sat back, the warmth from earlier gone so fast it almost felt like it had never been there. In its place, something colder. Not anger yet, not even embarrassment. Just a growing awareness that this wasn't a shared moment. This was a performance, and I hadn't agreed to be part of it. Chloe reached for the remote again, pausing the video at a frame that made her look flawless. Then she glanced around the room, waiting, just a second, for the attention to settle exactly where she wanted it. "Okay," she said lightly, like this was the fun part. "So, this is where it gets interesting." That was the moment it clicked. Not all at once, not like a switch flipping, more like something sinking into place. Whatever this was, it wasn't made for the people in this room. It had already lived somewhere else, and judging by the way a couple of them were avoiding eye contact, they'd seen it before I had. Chloe tilted her head slightly, like she was timing the room, making sure everyone was exactly where she needed them. "Oh, right," she added, almost as an afterthought, though nothing about it felt accidental. "I didn't explain. It's this trend. People post a video and let the internet rate them and their partner. You know, rate me and my husband out of 10. A couple of her friends nodded immediately. Of course they knew. Of course they'd seen it. "I posted this a few days ago," she went on, casual, light, like she was talking about a brunch spot. "It kind of blew up." Kind of. She tapped the screen again. The video resumed, but now there was something else layered over it. Text, usernames, comment bubbles sliding into view one after another. The part she'd been waiting for. "Okay, listen to this one," Chloe said, already smiling before she even read it. "She's a 10. He's like a generous 3. A laugh broke out somewhere to my left, too quick to be polite. Chloe laughed too, softer, like she didn't want to seem mean, just amused. "That one got a lot of likes," she added. Another comment appeared. "How does a girl like that end up with that?" She read it out loud this time, eyebrows lifting slightly, as if she was sharing something outrageous but entertaining. Someone shifted uncomfortably. Someone else took a sip of their drink just a little too fast. More comments. "He looks like he apologizes when someone bumps into him. Blink twice if you need help." That one landed harder. I felt it more than I heard it. Chloe didn't rush through them. That was the part that stayed with me. She took her time, picking them, almost curating the moment the same way she curated her photos. Some she read, some she just let hang on the screen long enough for everyone to process. Each one chipped away at something that had been quietly holding its shape until then. I didn't look at the TV anymore. I didn't need to. I could hear enough. What I did notice was the room. The way conversations had died completely now. The way people avoided looking directly at me, like eye contact might make them complicit. A couple of them forced small smiles, the kind you give when you don't know if you're supposed to intervene or stay out of it. Chloe, on the other hand, looked energized, not cruel, not openly, just lit up, like this was working exactly the way she'd hoped. "And this one," she said, scrolling again, a hint of excitement slipping through. "This one's my favorite." She read it slower. "She's way out of his league. It's actually kind of sad." There was a pause after that. Not long, but long enough. Long enough for it to settle in the air. Then she glanced at me, just briefly, like she was checking something. Measuring, maybe. Not concern. Not really. More like curiosity. Like she wanted to see how well it landed. I felt a dozen versions of a reaction rise up at once. Anger, embarrassment, disbelief. But none of them made it to the surface. They just stopped somewhere on the way. Because suddenly it was very clear what this was. Not a joke that went too far. Not a misunderstanding. This was intentional, packaged, edited, posted, and now performed. In front of people who were supposed to be on our side. The party didn't explode. No one stormed out. No glasses shattered. No dramatic speeches cut through the air. It just dissolved. People lingered for a while, the way they do when something awkward overstays its welcome. A few more drinks, a couple of forced conversations. Someone changing the music like that could reset the mood. There were a few pats on my shoulder, quiet, "You good, man?" Checks that didn't wait for an actual answer. Mostly, though, they laughed it off. Not cruelly, not loudly, just enough. By the time the last guest left, the room looked exactly the same as before. Same lights, same empty glasses, but something in it felt used. Like the night had already been consumed somewhere else before it even reached us. Chloe started cleaning up like nothing had happened, gathering plates, stacking glasses, humming something under her breath. I stood there for a minute, watching her move around the kitchen like this was just another evening. "Hey," I said finally. She glanced up. "Yeah?" I took a step closer, then stopped. I wasn't even sure where to start. There wasn't a clean entry point into something like that. "What was that?" I asked. She blinked once like she genuinely didn't understand the question. "What do you mean?" "The video, Chloe." I kept my voice even. It surprised me how steady it sounded. "You filmed me, without telling me. You picked the worst possible shots, put them next to your best ones, and posted it online so people could, what? Rate us." "It's a trend," she said, a little too quickly. "I told you." "That doesn't explain why I'm the punchline," she exhaled, setting a glass down a bit harder than necessary. "Ryan, it's not that serious. It's just content." I let that sit for a second. "Content," I repeated. "It's how this works," she went on, more defensive now, but still trying to keep that light tone. "People engage with contrast, it gets attention. And it worked, by the way. The video's doing really well." Of course it was. I ran a hand over the back of my neck, trying to keep the conversation from slipping into something louder. "You used me," I said. Not accusing, just stating it. Her expression shifted just slightly. Not guilt, something closer to annoyance that I wasn't playing along. "I didn't use you," she said. "I included you. There's a difference." I almost laughed at that. "People are tearing me apart in those comments, Chloe." "They're strangers," she shot back. "Why do you care what they think?" I looked at her for a second longer than I meant to. "Because you handed me to them." That landed. Not heavily, not dramatically, but enough for her to pause. Then she softened, just a little, stepping closer. "Hey, come on," she said, quieter now. "It's not like that. You know I love you." I didn't respond. "I mean it," she added, searching my face. "The comments don't change anything. They're just noise. This is still us. Us. I nodded once, not because I agreed, but because I didn't see the point in pushing it further that night. Whatever we were going to figure out, it wasn't going to happen at 2 in the morning, standing over a half-cleaned kitchen. So I let it drop. Or at least that's what it looked like. The video didn't slow down. If anything, it picked up speed. A couple 100,000 views turned into more. Comments multiplied. The same phrases over and over, slightly different wording, same idea. I tried not to look at it. For a while, I succeeded. Then I didn't. It's a strange thing, watching yourself become something people recognize without ever knowing you. A face they've seen before. A joke they're already in on. A few days later, I started paying attention to Chloe's account. Not obsessively, just enough. Enough to see the next video when it went up. The thumbnail alone told me what it was. Same room, same night, same lighting, different angle. I watched it anyway. It started with her voice, light, amused, the way it had been that night. Then the camera shifted, just slightly, catching me from the side. Not obvious, not staged, hidden. You could see it in the framing. I was sitting there, exactly as I remembered, still, controlled, trying to process what was happening without giving anything away. But the camera caught the things I couldn't hide completely. The small pause before I spoke, the way my jaw tightened for a second, the moment my eyes dropped, just briefly, before I looked back up. Subtle things. Enough. The caption read something like, "His reaction when the internet rates us." I wasn't expecting this. It was already climbing. Comments poured in faster than before. Bro's trying so hard to keep it together. He looks like he just realized everything at once. Not only a 3, but a soft one too. I stared at the screen a little longer than I should have. Then I set the phone down, because at that point, it wasn't just one video anymore. It was a series, and I wasn't just part of it. I was the theme. It should have ended with the first video. As bad as that was, I could have almost filed it under a single terrible decision. A lapse in judgment. Something we'd argue about, maybe even fix, if there was enough honesty left between us. But it didn't end there. That's the part that stayed with me. It wasn't enough for Chloe to put me online once, to take those shots, edit them, frame me next to a version of herself the internet would inevitably worship. That alone would have been hard to ignore. She needed the reaction too. Needed that second layer, the follow-up, the real moment. And suddenly, the whole night looked different in hindsight. The way she'd paused the video at just the right time. The way she'd read the comments out loud, not rushing, letting them land. The way she'd glanced at me, not with concern but with timing. She wasn't just sharing something, she was setting something up. That realization hit slower than the rest, but deeper. Our anniversary, 5 years together, hadn't been a celebration. It had been a stage, a controlled environment, friends as background noise, me as the subject. Content first, everything else second. I sat with that for a while, longer than I'd like to admit. There's a specific kind of disappointment that doesn't come with yelling or breaking things. It just settles. Quiet, heavy, hard to move once it's there. I thought about confronting her again, saying everything that had built up since that night, forcing it into the open. But the truth was, we'd already had that conversation. She'd told me what it was. It's just content. It helped my account. You're taking it too seriously. She wasn't confused. She wasn't unaware. She just didn't see a problem. And that made arguing feel pointless. So I stopped trying to explain it. Instead, I started paying attention. Not to the comments, not to the views, to the pattern. What worked? What got engagement? What people reacted to? Contrast. That was the core of it. Carefully chosen frames. A narrative that didn't need to be true. Just convincing enough. I understood it now. Better than I wanted to. And somewhere in that understanding, something shifted. Not loud, not dramatic. Just a decision forming quietly in the background. I wasn't interested in a fight. Not the kind that ends with raised voices and half-finished sentences. That wasn't going to land with her anyway. If anything was going to reach Chloe, it had to speak the same language she was already fluent in. I didn't want to hurt her. Not really. But I did want her to understand what it feels like to be reduced to a frame, to a moment you didn't choose, to a version of yourself someone else decided was good enough for the world. So I started thinking in her terms: angles, timing, presentation. If she needed the internet to see something to believe it, then maybe that's exactly where the lesson had to happen. I didn't rush it. I just let the idea settle. And for the first time since that night, I wasn't reacting anymore. I was planning. I didn't wake up one morning and decide to get revenge. It wasn't that clean. It wasn't cinematic. If anything, it started as a quiet irritation that refused to go away. Like a song stuck in your head, except the song is your wife casually turning you into a public punchline. Twice. The second video did it. Not the comments. I'd already seen enough of those. Not even the first post. It was the fact that she needed the sequel. The reaction. The follow-up episode no one asked for, but everyone watched anyway. That's when it clicked. This wasn't a mistake. This was a format. And formats can be replicated. So I stopped reacting and started adapting. The account came first. No drama, no hidden meaning layered 10 levels deep. Just simple. Clean. That husband. Neutral enough to pass. Familiar enough to blend in. If you knew, you knew. If you didn't, you'd scroll right past it. Perfect. Then I did something I hadn't done in a while. I looked at myself honestly. Not through her edits. Not through bad angles or half-second frames she'd frozen into evidence. Just objectively. And yeah, I wasn't at my peak. Work had taken its toll. Long hours, takeout dinners, the occasional promise to get back into it that never quite made it past Monday. So I adjusted. Nothing extreme. I didn't suddenly become a different person. I just corrected a few things. Cut back on some hours at work. Not enough to raise questions, just enough to breathe again. Started going to the gym in the mornings. Nothing heroic, just consistent. The kind of effort that doesn't look impressive day to day, but adds up quietly. 3 weeks. That's all it took for the difference to start showing. Not transformation, not some movie montage ending, just sharper, more put together, less like the version she'd uploaded for public entertainment. Then came the part she thought I didn't understand. Presentation. I didn't guess my way through it. That would have been ironic, getting it wrong after she'd practically handed me the blueprint. So I asked for help. A guy from work knew a photographer. Nothing fancy, just someone who shot portraits on weekends. I told him I needed a few clean photos. No story, no explanation. We met up one afternoon. Natural light, simple background. A couple of outfit changes that didn't scream, trying too hard. He adjusted things I wouldn't have noticed. Shoulders, posture, where to look, when not to. Relax, he said at one point. You look like you're about to negotiate a contract. Feels about right, I replied. He laughed. I didn't. The photos came out good, not overproduced, not fake, just intentional. Funny how that works. Chloe, on the other hand, didn't get a photographer. She got something much more personal. Me. And, as it turned out, I'd been paying attention more than she thought. Here's the thing about Chloe. Online, she was flawless. Perfect lighting, perfect angles, perfect timing. You'd think she woke up already edited, but real life doesn't come with a ring light. And I had front row seats to all the moments she quietly deleted from existence. So I started collecting them. Not in a creepy, obsessive way, just selectively. The way she did. Chloe in the morning, no makeup, hair doing whatever it felt like, staring at her phone like it personally offended her. Chloe trying something sour and immediately making a face like she just reconsidered her entire personality. Chloe zoning out mid-conversation with that blank, slightly confused expression, like her thoughts hit a loading screen and never came back. And then there were the small things. the messy moments she'd never post, the half-second expressions that didn't flatter her, the completely unfiltered version of someone who spent most of her time pretending to be polished. Real Chloe. Not the curated one. The contrast practically built itself. I didn't rush it. That was the key. A quick shot here, a short clip there. Nothing obvious, nothing that would make her pause and ask, "Why are you filming me?" Just normal behavior, background noise, 3 weeks of it. 3 weeks of quietly building the same kind of narrative she had built about me, just from the other side of the lens. And the whole time, she didn't notice. Because why would she? In her world, a phone pointed in your direction didn't mean anything. It was just life. When I finally sat down to put it all together, it almost felt familiar. Same rhythm, same idea, just flipped. My shots, clean, intentional, put together. Hers, real, unfiltered, caught in those perfect little in-between moments she never allowed anyone to see. I stitched it together carefully, not rushed, not sloppy. If I was going to speak her language, I might as well be fluent. I uploaded it late at night. Same kitchen, same chair, same quiet hum of the fridge in the background. The caption was simple. Rate me and my wife. Be honest. No explanation, no hint of context, just the format she trusted so much. I hit post, set the phone down, and leaned back. For a moment, nothing happened. No explosion, no instant karma. Just a quiet upload drifting into the same system that had turned me into a punchline. I picked up the phone, checked the first few views, then put it down again. Because unlike Chloe, I wasn't chasing validation. I was waiting for impact, and something told me, this time, it would land. For the first day or two, nothing really happened. A few views, a couple of likes, some early comments that felt more like background noise than anything meaningful. The kind of slow start that usually tells you a video's going nowhere. Which, honestly, worked for me. I didn't sit there refreshing the page every 5 minutes. Didn't track engagement like it was a stock market. I had other things to deal with. Work picked up again. The gym became part of my routine instead of a one-time correction. And life quietly filled in the space where that whole situation used to sit. At some point, I just forgot about it. Not completely. More like it slipped into the background, filed under something I'd already done. Days passed. Then, one evening, I was in line at a grocery store, half listening to the guy in front of me argue about coupons, when my phone buzzed. Then again, and again. At first, I ignored it, thought it was just the usual mix of emails and group chats, but it didn't stop. Notifications stacked on top of each other, lighting up the screen like something had gone wrong, or very right. I stepped out of line for a second, pulled my phone out, and opened the app. The numbers had changed. Not slightly. Significantly. Views climbing faster than I could process. Comments coming in quicker than I could read them. Shares, mentions, tags. It had found its way into the same current her video had ridden. And now it was moving. Fast. The comments were different this time. Same format. Same blunt honesty. Different direction. Wait, he's actually good looking. Why does she look so different from her page? Bro got done dirty in her video. I scrolled a little further. She's a 10 online, maybe a 5 here. He upgraded, she just edited. This feels like a response video. That one almost made me smile. Almost. Because it didn't stop there. People started comparing, side by side, stitch videos, reactions, strangers breaking down the difference between her original post and mine, like it was some kind of case study in deception. She set him up. He just showed reality. It was strange, watching the narrative shift in real time. Not because I needed the validation, but because I recognized the mechanism. Same system, same audience, same rules. Just a different outcome. By the next day, it wasn't just numbers on a screen. It was bleed through. At work, one of the guys in the break room looked at me a second longer than usual, then said, "Hey, random question, are you on TikTok?" I paused. "Not really," I said. He nodded slowly, like he didn't fully believe me, but wasn't ready to push it. "Yeah," he said. "Thought I saw something." Of course he did. The video kept climbing. Not millions overnight, but enough. Enough to matter. Enough to reach the same circles her content lived in. Enough to cross paths. That was the part I'd been waiting for. Not the views, not the comments. The moment it landed where it needed to. It happened quietly. No dramatic confrontation. No immediate explosion. Just a shift. Chloe started spending more time on her phone than usual. Not the casual scrolling I was used to. This was different. Focused. Tense. The kind of silence that isn't really silence. At one point, she let out a short, sharp exhale, half laugh, half disbelief. I didn't look up right away, didn't ask. I already knew. Because whatever she was seeing on that screen, I'd seen it before. Just from the other side. I leaned back slightly in my chair, watching her out of the corner of my eye. Waiting. Because for the first time since all of this started, the timing wasn't hers anymore. It didn't take long, not for the realization, not for the pattern to repeat itself, and definitely not for Chloe to connect the dots. She didn't burst into the room or throw accusations right away. That wasn't her style. Instead, she went quiet, not calm, quiet in that controlled, tense way, like she was trying to process something she didn't like, but couldn't immediately dismiss. I noticed it before she said anything. The way she kept refreshing her screen, the slight tightening of her jaw, the way her thumb hovered over the comments longer than usual, like she was reading the same lines more than once, hoping they'd somehow change. They didn't. I was sitting at the kitchen table again, same spot as always, scrolling through something unrelated, or at least pretending to, when she finally spoke. "Ryan." Just my name, nothing else. I looked up. "Yeah?" She was standing a few feet away, phone in her hand, expression caught somewhere between disbelief and irritation. "Do you want to explain this?" she asked, turning the screen toward me. I didn't lean in. I didn't need to. I already knew exactly what she was showing me. "My account?" I said evenly. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Your account," she repeated, like the words themselves were offensive. "That video. Are you serious right now?" I shrugged, just enough to register. "It's a trend, right?" That hit, not loudly, not explosively, but I saw it land, the recognition, the shift from confusion to something sharper. "This isn't funny," she said, her voice tightening. "People are—" She stopped herself, then tried again. "Do you have any idea what they're saying about me?" I held her gaze for a second. "Yeah," I said. "I do." She let out a short, incredulous laugh. "No, you don't. This is different." "Is it?" That was enough to push it. "Ryan, this is not the same thing," she snapped, taking a step closer. "You made me look ridiculous. You went out of your way to pick the worst possible." She cut herself off again, gesturing vaguely with her phone, like the specifics were too obvious to list. I tilted my head slightly. "Bad angles? Unflattering moments? No context?" I said. "Yeah, I'm familiar with the concept." Her expression hardened. "I didn't do that to you." I almost smiled at that. "You didn't?" I asked quietly. There was a pause, just a second, but it was enough. "That was different," she said, less certain now. "That was content. It was lighthearted. People understood that." "Did they?" I asked. "Because from what I saw, they understood it pretty clearly." She shook her head, pacing a step to the side, then back again. "You're twisting this. You're doing this to hurt me." I let that sit between us for a moment. Then I leaned back in my chair, folding my arms loosely. "No," I said. "I'm doing this so you understand." That stopped her. Not completely, but enough to break the rhythm of the argument. "Understand what?" she asked, quieter now, but with something sharp still underneath. "What it feels like," I said. "To have someone take moments you didn't choose, frame them the worst possible way, and hand them to strangers for entertainment." Her grip on the phone tightened. "That's not—" "It is," I cut in, still calm. The only difference is, this time you're on the other side of it. Silence settled in the room. Not heavy, not dramatic, just real. For a second, I thought she might actually hear it. That something in what I said had landed the way I intended. Then her expression shifted again, not to understand, to anger. "You embarrassed me," she said, each word more controlled than the last. "Do you realize what this is doing to my account? My brand?" There it was, not us, not what we did to each other. Her brand. I nodded slowly. "Yeah," I said. "I think I'm starting to." She stared at me like she was waiting for something else. For an apology, maybe. For me to backtrack. To admit I'd gone too far. I didn't. Because for the first time since all of this started, the conversation wasn't happening on her terms. And she didn't know what to do with that. The shift didn't happen all at once. There was no single moment where Chloe suddenly stopped, looked at everything and said, "I get it now." If anything, it was the opposite. It started with resistance, then frustration, then something quieter that settled in when the noise around it didn't go away. The comments didn't slow down the way she expected. Not after a day, not after a week. If anything, they became more pointed, less amused, more specific. People weren't just reacting anymore. They were comparing, breaking things down, calling out the difference between what she showed and what actually slipped through. And for the first time, Chloe didn't read them out loud. She read them silently. I could see it in the way she held her phone, closer than usual. The way her expression changed in small, almost imperceptible ways. Less defensive, more uncertain. Like she was trying to argue with something that didn't leave room for argument. We didn't fight after that first conversation. Not really. There were attempts, half-starts, a few sharp exchanges that lost momentum halfway through, like neither of us wanted to drag it back into something louder. The tension stayed, but it changed shape. It wasn't explosive anymore. It was reflective. One night, a little over a week after everything peaked, she sat down across from me at the same kitchen table where all of this seemed to begin. No phone in her hand this time, no performance behind her eyes. Just Chloe. "I didn't think it would feel like that," she said. Her voice was quieter than I'd heard it in a while. Not fragile, just honest. I didn't interrupt. "I thought it was just content," she continued, looking down at her hands for a second before meeting my eyes again. "That if people were laughing, it meant it was working. I didn't think about what it actually meant for you." There was a pause there. Not awkward, necessary. "I see it now," she added, and this time it didn't sound like something she was trying to convince me of. "Not just because of what you did, but because I had to sit in it." That landed. Not in a dramatic way, just enough. "I wasn't trying to destroy anything," I said after a moment. "I just needed you to understand." She nodded slowly. "I know." Another pause. Then, almost reluctantly, "You were right to be mad." That might have been the first time she'd said something like that without softening it halfway through. We sat there for a bit, letting the conversation breathe instead of filling it. "I'm sorry," she said finally. "Not just to you. I mean, actually sorry. For how I did it. For not even asking. For turning you into something you didn't agree to be." There wasn't a perfect response to that. No clean line that wrapped everything up. So I didn't try to force one. "I hear you," I said. And for now, that was enough. A few days later, she posted again. But this time, it wasn't polished. No music layered over it. No quick cuts or curated angles. Just Chloe sitting in front of the camera, looking real in a way her page hadn't allowed before. She talked about it. Not defensively. Not like she was trying to spin it. She explained the trend, the first video, what she thought she was doing, and then what it actually turned into. She didn't skip over the part where it hurt me, didn't minimize it, didn't dress it up. And then she apologized. Publicly. Not the kind of apology people post to save face. The kind you make when you've already had the real conversation and you're not trying to rewrite it. Just own it. The response was different. Still engagement, still attention. But the tone shifted. Less mockery, more curiosity. Some respect even. People who'd followed the whole thing started to see it as more than just another trend. A story. Messy. Uncomfortable. Real enough to hold attention without needing to exaggerate it. Her account grew after that. Ironically. But this time it didn't feel like it was built on something hollow. We didn't fix everything overnight. That's not how this works. There were still moments where things felt off, where trust had to be rebuilt in small, quiet ways instead of big declarations. But the difference was, we were actually doing it, together. Less performance, more presence. We started spending time without cameras in the room, no angles, no second takes. Just normal things that didn't need to be documented to matter. It felt unfamiliar at first. Then it felt better. Looking back, I don't think the videos were the real problem. They were just the clearest version of something that had been building for a while. And maybe the only reason it worked out the way it did is because, for once, we both had to see it from the outside. Unedited, unfiltered, honest, not perfect, but real enough to rebuild something on. And this time, we both chose what made it into the frame. If you felt this story hit hard, drop a like, subscribe for more, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support keeps Steelheart beating.